I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore. It cast a pall over everybody's shining moment last night. You know, a lot of people worked really hard to get to that place and to have their moment in the sun and to get their award for the really hard work they did. And it is no mean feat to go through all the stuff you have to go through when you're nominated for an Oscar. It's a gauntlet of devotion that you have to do. And you know, it was just a selfish moment that cast a pall over the whole thing.
Jim Carrey hurled a verbal grenade straight into the center of Hollywood, taking direct aim at Will Smith and what he believes is an entertainment industry drifting dangerously off course. The legendary comedian warned that Hollywood's growing obsession with wokeness has pushed the culture to a boiling point. If the industry keeps moving in this direction, he suggested, a dramatic collapse may not be far away.
This war on jokes must end. Will Smith didn't get kicked out of the Oscars for going Ike Turner on Chris, but Kevin Hart got kicked out of hosting it for a joke. Who are these people who say cancel culture isn't a real thing? Just among comedians who've gotten fired and lost gigs for exercising their freedom of expression, the toll is high.
His comments were blunt, fiery, and impossible to ignore. The moment instantly sparked conversation across social media and talk shows alike. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and buckle up, because this debate isn't about some distant possibility. It's unfolding right now.
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore.
There was some question today about if anyone else had walked from the audience and done that, they would have been escorted out by security or maybe even arrested. The police asked Chris if he wanted to file charges. They asked Chris, do you want to file charges? And Chris apparently said no, he did not.
He doesn't want the hassle. I'd announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million because that video is going to be there forever. It's going to be ubiquitous.
What ignited the controversy? The unforgettable moment at the 94th Academy Awards when Will Smith walked onto the stage and slapped Chris Rock in front of a global audience. The shocking moment didn't just echo through the Dolby Theater. It rippled around the world, sparking heated debates about ego, power, and selective outrage. Jim Carrey didn't hold back. He said that if he had been in Rock's position, he would have filed a $200 million lawsuit, not out of revenge, but to establish a firm boundary around accountability. To him, the incident symbolized something much larger, an industry quick to police language, but hesitant to confront emotional overreach. In his view, Hollywood has drifted so deeply into performative wokeness that comedy itself risks being labeled dangerous, leaving comedians navigating a cultural minefield.
You know, that insult is going to last a very long time. If you want to yell from the audience and disapprove or show a disapproval or say something on Twitter or whatever, you do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words.
No, I agree. I think we all agree on that. I just thought, Jim, that it escalated to that. You know what I mean? That it escalated to that level.
It didn't escalate. It came out of nowhere because Will has something going on inside him that's frustrating, and I wish him the best. I really do. I don't have anything against Will Smith.
When a host suggested that Chris Rock might have crossed a line with his joke, Jim Carrey rejected the idea outright. Words, especially improvised comedy, should never justify physical retaliation, he argued. Rock's remark was a split-second punchline, the kind comedians craft instinctively. For Carrey, the real issue wasn't the joke. It was Smith's reaction. He believes whatever exploded on stage had likely been building long before the cameras rolled. His stance was simple. Personal rage does not excuse public assault. Excusing it, he warned, sets a dangerous precedent where emotion overrides accountability.
You know, a lot of people worked really hard to get to that place and to have their moment in the sun and to get their award for the really hard work they did. And it is no mean feat to go through all the stuff you have to go through when you're nominated for an Oscar. It's a gauntlet of devotion that you have to do. And you know, it was just a selfish moment that cast a pall over the whole thing.
Carrey viewed Smith's actions as a symptom of a broader dysfunction within Hollywood itself. To him, the slap represented more than a personal mistake. It exposed an industry tangled in its own self-importance. He argued that studios and executives often prioritize approved narratives over genuine audience connection. Once Hollywood commits to a particular cultural direction, he suggested, it rarely reassesses, even when criticism grows louder. Instead, it doubles down. In his eyes, that's how the industry has leaned heavily into what he calls a woke agenda, shifting attention away from storytelling and toward image management and ideological alignment.
It's time for another edition of one of our favorite departments here on Real Time, explaining jokes to idiots. Where as a public service, I break down jokes for the humor impaired. Not that I have anyone particular in mind. Now, I know we're all sick of talking about the slap, but I'm sorry, one more thing needs to be said. Comedians have been under attack for quite some time, and I need to stick up for my tribe. This war on jokes must end.
Meanwhile, Bill Maher has repeatedly warned that comedy is facing pressure from a hypervocal activist fringe determined to police what people are allowed to laugh at. According to Maher, humor is increasingly treated like a violation of social rules, with comedians facing backlash over punchlines that once would have been routine. But Maher asks a blunt question: when has comedy ever existed without offending someone? Offense, he says, isn't a defect in humor, it's part of its DNA. Remove that edge, and comedy stops evolving. It simply fades away.
And then Chris made what in the business is known as a some is like some other shit joke. He said to Jada Smith, Jada can't wait for G.I. Jane 2, recalling the late 90s movie starring Demi Moore. That's it. That's the joke. You remind me of some other beautiful, buzz-cutted movie star. It wasn't an alopecia joke any more than the one about the chicken crossing the road is about bird flu.
Maher also broke down Rock's joke point by point, noting that it referenced the character from G.I. Jane, a figure known for toughness and resilience, rather than directly mocking Jada Pinkett Smith's alopecia. Context, he argued, is everything. The audience initially laughed, showing the moment was received as a joke in real time. Intent matters, Maher insists. Comedians shouldn't be punished when material is later reinterpreted beyond its original meaning.
Not an insult, although insult humor is also a staple of comedy. And in fact, an example of insulting someone's looks was on display that night when Regina Hall said, "We've been dealing with COVID for 2 years. It's been really hard on people." And Amy Schumer said, "Yeah, just look at Timothée Chalamet," and they cut to J.K. Simmons, who made a face a lot like the one Jada would make later on. But that's where it ended. It's called being a good sport, especially when you're a rich celebrity. Let the common people take the piss out of you for one stinking minute.
Maher also highlighted examples of public figures who handled teasing with composure, pointing to J.K. Simmons as someone who has taken playful on-set ribbing in stride. Award shows have always included lighthearted roasts. It's part of the tradition. His message was clear. Confidence means understanding the difference between humor and harm, and not turning every joke into a crisis.
And importantly, Chris's joke was received as funny, as evidenced by the audience and Will Smith laughing. And this is the moment where we got to see a live-action, real-time encapsulation of how cancel culture works. Look at what happens next. Jada shoots her husband a look. Let's slow the tape down to capture this moment. There. Back and to the left. Back and to the left.
Ironically, cameras captured Will Smith initially laughing at the joke. Only after glancing toward Jada Pinkett Smith did his expression shift. Critics say that moment perfectly illustrates how quickly humor can transform into controversy. What begins as laughter can suddenly turn into outrage when social pressure and public optics enter the equation.
Before this moment, Will is laughing because he hasn't yet found out that his original genuine reaction is wrong and that he should conform to a different view. And he's the one who's being manly? I've seen the same syndrome happen in comedy clubs. Woke hecklers who literally have to wait for the laughter to die down before they yell, "That's not funny!"
Bill Maher warns that enforced conformity suffocates creativity. In his view, demanding ideological alignment discourages open conversation and replaces debate with fear. When artists feel they must constantly self-censor, creative expression narrows dramatically. The result, he argues, isn't greater understanding. It's hesitation, caution, and silence.
This war on jokes must end. Will Smith didn't get kicked out of the Oscars for going Ike Turner on Chris, but Kevin Hart got kicked out of hosting it for a joke. Who are these people who say cancel culture isn't a real thing? Just among comedians who've gotten fired and lost gigs for exercising their freedom of expression, the toll is high.
Ultimately, the saga, from Chris Rock's joke to Will Smith's slap, reflects a deeper cultural tension within Hollywood. For voices like Jim Carrey and Bill Maher, the debate goes far beyond one explosive moment. It touches on the future of comedy, accountability, and artistic freedom. When emotion outweighs intent and outrage replaces nuance, they argue, balance disappears. The real question now isn't whether Hollywood can survive controversy. It's whether it can rediscover equilibrium before polarization takes over the entire stage.